Hello and welcome to ABW Live. I'm your host, John, for this evening. No Jason tonight. He got the night off. He said he didn't want to talk about a load of goat herders. So apologies straight away to anyone from the Ukraine or as a Vorskla fan, because apparently that's what Jason thinks of your team. We'll get into that as we go on. No Jason, no Dom either. So it's not just me, Jason and Dom for you all season. You do actually get other people. I do apologise to the 2% of female listeners. Dom's not here, so you might want to tune out tonight. In his place, we do have Ellis. Hello, Ellis. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well. I'm starting to get over my bout of man flu / tonsillitis, but I'm getting there, and it's all for the better to see Arsenal win, even if it is, as Jason Davies may say, against a bunch of goat herders.
Yeah, terrible. Well, I should also apologise to anyone who's a goat herder as well, because that might be offensive to you. And we also have the triumphant return of the pirate himself. It's Kris Carpenter.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. It's lovely to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm sure it's not really. I mean, there are prettier people out there, but nevertheless, thank you for inviting me, and hello to you both.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on.
Thank you.
I know lots of the chat box have been missing you, and Ellis, and all the others as well. Don't worry, Carl hasn't disappeared, and we're going to have Steve on at some point this season, try and get Holic on again as well. So we'll have lots of people on. Before I shout out the chat box, I'll just shout out straight away, Stefan Selby, you absolute madman. Hadn't even started the show and get a £10 donation. So thank you very much, Stefan. That's brilliant. Honestly, really appreciate that. And also thank you very much to the chat box who, without me even prompting them, said how much of a nice guy Stefan is. So if you haven't already do that, get in the chat box and give him some love. I will shout out quickly Thunder Road, who I think was first in the box. Apologies if it was anyone else. And 235, Alexander asking, Walrus and Hedgehog, Chill Doctor, Pat Brady, MJL, Really Restlos, Danny, the GFP's in there. Which is nice of him to be awake this time of day. Hello, YouTubers, Stephen Edwards, Barry, Billy Butler, Renry, Christian Anderson. Apologies if I missed anyone else. Joshua Page, Stan the Man. I'm just shouting out people randomly as I see them. So hello, good evening to you all. 4-2. Fucking wow. What a win. 4 wins in a row. Nice start to the run as well. Just really good result. Scoreline probably a little bit deceiving of what actually happened in the game. Kris, I want to come to you first. We haven't really heard from you at all this season, obviously. Just on what you thought of the lineup coming into the game, because it's a lot stronger than I thought it'd be, to be honest.
I probably would agree with that. Weirdly, the people I thought would probably stay in the team didn't, and the people that I didn't think would stayed in would or did. Yeah, it was stronger. I think it sort of resembles what Emery did with Sevilla in that he tends to sort of try and get the group one fairly quickly and then tends to rest a lot of the players. I'm quite happy with it. I think the right players got game time that was needed. It's nice to see Rob Holding playing a game again. Obviously, we knew Leno would come in. We pretty much knew Torreira would come in. And it was also, I thought, even trivial things like playing Monreal, some people sort of turned their nose and went, oh, he's our only left back. But bear in mind, he only came into the side he came into pre-season quite late, haven't been at the World Cup. So yeah, I think he would still be sort of fairly fresh. And playing Aubameyang was probably the right thing to do, given the fact that he's struggled a little bit for confidence. Struggles maybe is a bit harsh because he's still had an impact on the games. But yeah, I think it was a fairly good, and as you say, fairly strong lineup. And I'm definitely in the camp more of let's play a stronger side, get the group one, and then send out anyone they can find on the farm for the last 2 games.
Yeah, no, I do agree, at least with the last 2 games. I thought we might see a couple more of the youngsters. Ellis, do you think that's maybe didn't pick or start any of them tonight, just with the I was about to say Carabao Cup game coming up so soon?
Yeah, I think that's probably played a part in his selection plans, and also because obviously he's a new manager, a new club trying to enforce sort of new ideas on the players. Again, I sort of agree with Kris on the Aubameyang thing. He's a bit out of form recently. Perhaps the cynic in me thought he's going to play him just so he can get some minutes because he's not going to play at the weekend. But obviously that's given him some confidence now. He's got 2 goals. Again, we can say to whoever the opposition is, it's still 2 goals from Aubameyang, and they're well taken goals anyway, which is just going to give him confidence, which he needs. You can see, bless him, Lacazette sat on the bench, sort of looked like he was about to fall asleep in the right old mood, just sat there like really nonchalantly, just like pretty much assured that he wasn't going to get on. But he can feel safe in his position still, I think. But I think if we're going to get both of them play, or Aubameyang on the pitch, it'll probably be with Lacazette, because I think he's pretty much got his spot sewn down. I think, yeah, again, as echo what Kris said, I was a bit surprised of how strong the team we did put out. But like you say, it's most probably with the thought of the youth and the youngsters are going to get more of a chance in the Carabao Cup. I'm going to get that wrong every time I say it. But yeah, it was good to see some of the other guys that came on, especially Emil Smith-Rowe. I think he's quite a young, exciting player. And I can't remember what time he came on, but he got at least 10 minutes or so, didn't he? And I thought with those 10 minutes, we sort of saw glimpses of a player that he can potentially be. So that was interesting. But it gave the guys minutes, people like Mkhitaryan, people like Lichtsteiner, who haven't really had that many minutes or have been sort of in and out of the team per se, depending on who's injured and who's fit. So that gave them a bit more run out. And to be fair to them, they probably didn't do much defending. Like Lichtsteiner and the players that are getting more of a game time, Monreal, they seem to spend both their time, especially in the second half, sort of as wingers more than anything.
Yeah. Kris, the first half was a little lackluster at times. I thought we started okay. Sort of first 10 minutes, we were quite positive. Torreira with some early balls in, quite direct, trying to find Iwobi and Aubameyang with their runs in. And one of the first things you saw, noticed straight away, was Leno. When he got the ball, he's just ease and how comfortable he was on the ball, compared to Cech, who, again, I'm not digging out Cech. I think Cech's done very, very well this season, and I don't think any of the goals really have been his fault, to be honest. And he's being asked to do something he's not used to. But Leno looks so much more comfortable doing it, playing out from the back, doesn't he? And more confident.
Yeah, when you say the first half was a bit dull, do you mean the first game was a bit dull?
There was bright points in it.
There was.
First 10 minutes we started okay, but then we did kind of start going a little bit sideways, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of them.
Yeah, it was a little bit. No, do you know what? I was waiting for the Leno question because I knew we would have to touch on it this evening, and I thought it was really funny, the crowd reaction, because there seems to be like this swell now within the crowd where it's like, oh, Leno's got to come in, like for the last 3 weeks it's Torreira's got to come in, and people sort of have their favourites and like to sort of step on a bandwagon and then run with it. I think what you say is right. I think Leno is. The thing is, I would have been more concerned if Leno had have come into the side and not looked comfortable in possession, because that is, after all, what we bought him for in the first place. A goalkeeper who's comfortable with the ball at his feet. So had he not have been, I would have been slightly concerned. He did play a nice little chip pass into midfield, didn't he? But the only thing I would say is, I think you can't judge him on one game, and I don't think Cech would have done anything differently to what Leno did tonight against that opposition. That's not having a go at Leno. He literally had nothing to do but pick the ball out of his net twice, and neither goal was anything he could do about it. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to see. I have a feeling we're going to use 3 goalkeepers this season. I think Martinez will play the Coca-Cola Cup game, as I'd like to call it. But yeah, I think in Europe it will probably be Leno. Until I think Cech has got money in the bank, as far as I think Emery has faith in him. I do think he'll have to drop a considerable bollock before he is shunted out. And with Leno, we don't know how he's going to perform. But on the basis of tonight, did everything straightforward, and yeah, no complaints here for playing him. He needs games at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of people have said in the chat box, he wasn't really tested tonight, and he wasn't. I agree, but neither of the goals he could do anything about, and he didn't see a ton of the ball because we basically had it the whole time. It was very rare they had to go back to him, but he just looked that little bit more assured. Ellis, I'm going to jump straight into the first goal, because in the first half there wasn't a ton to talk about. We were just comfortable in possession, and they basically sat their entire team in their own half. I'm not sure if Mkhitaryan said something to the Vorskla player. I don't know if he can speak a bit of Ukrainian or Russian or something. The old let it go, leave it to me or whatever that the referee always pulls you up for in a Sunday league. But he let it run. Good little turn, finds Iwobi, and a great ball out to Aubameyang, who finished and really needed that goal, didn't he?
Yeah, they were talking about that at half time, whether he said leave it or let it go in Ukrainian. Apparently, he knows 6 languages and he's played in that league previously, or played against that opposition or something. I'm not quite sure, but it certainly looked like he may have said something, because the player did leave it. He picked it up, like you said, quite deep in our own half, and from what I'd seen and what I'd watched, that seemed like the only time they managed to get into our box and a half and look a bit dangerous. And unfortunately for them, it was the only time we countered, and we countered quickly. And that's the sort of goal that is Aubameyang's bread and butter: quick, fast counter attack, put the ball in play, and 9 times out of 10 he'll finish it. I still think there was a lot to do between the players that were involved. Obviously, Mkhitaryan got the ball, picked the ball up at the sort of edge of our box, and was running, went for Iwobi. A part of me, just with my bias against Iwobi, was a bit worried that Iwobi had the ball, and I thought, oh my God, how is he going to mess it up? But the ball to Aubameyang was perfectly timed, picked him up perfectly, and analysing the goal back when they were sort of showing the replays at half time, Aubameyang did really well to sort of make the space for himself. He sort of dropped a bit and then ran out of space. And when you've got the pace he has, you can afford to do that. Him as a player can do that. Players are a bit slower, wouldn't be able to do that themselves, but he knows his own pace. He knows he can sort of create that space for himself. And Iwobi picks him out perfectly. I think he still had a bit to do, more of like a sort of semi-slide tackle goal, but that's one thing. I know he was sort of, his finishing was left wanting at Chelsea, but other than that sort of blip, from what I've seen of Aubameyang, finishing seems to be one of his strong points, and you will always back him to score. Then I think previous strikers that have been at our team, I may have been a bit worried in that situation, but for me, I wasn't really worried for Aubameyang. We might go on to the miss that he had a bit later on, but for me, I thought he was always going to score that, and it was a well worked goal, and it showed that when they came at us, it gave us a bit more space, because before then they had at times 6 people defending, and we're just doing our sideways passes. Both Nacho Monreal and Lichtstein, like I said earlier, were pushed up really far, and we're finding it really hard to break them down. And once we had found that first goal, it started to open up at Mill. They started to come at us, and we got more space, and that's just what we needed, really.
Yeah, the ball from Mickey was good, and the fact that he picked the right pass, I think Iwobi offered it, who was really good, and we'll talk about individuals later, but Iwobi's definitely one I want to pick on, for good reasons, not bad ones for a change. Kris, just going on from that goal, Aubameyang not long after that picks the ball up, drops a shoulder past the man. I'm sure everyone on Twitter and everyone watching it went, "Oh, Thierry." Just that little flash of Thierry, because it was from the left-hand side, and he wraps it round and then clips the post. That goal obviously did him the world of good, because his confidence just went through the roof then, and he looked a lot happier on it. And he was getting involved a lot more in the play, I noticed tonight as well. Excuse me.
Yeah, he does. It's quite a weird one for me, because I'm obviously the chairman of the Alex Lacazette fan club, so I'm very keen to keep both of them in the side. The only problem with that is that you've then got to work out who's the centre forward and who's going to play from the wide position. For me, Aubameyang is absolutely fine playing from that wide position, and then you can give him the games he wants as a central striker in this competition, and he does what he did tonight. I genuinely thought his performance was mixed tonight. He took his goals well. I thought that the first goal in particular actually was very well taken, because I think they sort of said he stubbed it into the floor. I thought that was a very, very well controlled finish at that angle. I did think their goalkeeper was pony, I must admit, but yeah, it was a good finish for the first, and the second one was nicely composed. But yeah, as you say, he struck the post with that effort just after he scored. His movement was good throughout, but he did also miss what I would call two, I wouldn't say gilt-edged chances, but the volley in particular, I think if he watches that back, he'll think, well, could have done better with that. So, he's a player that offers us something different. Like you say, there is that sort of element of Thierry. We're not comparing the two, but that ability to open his body up and come in from the wide positions is exactly why I'm quite okay with him playing in a wide position. And I've said this on this show before, and I'll probably keep saying it. When you set up on these sort of pretty Sky Sports or BT Sports graphics, and it's 4-2-3-1, the players all in positions, when the game actually starts, we do play with 2 forwards. There's no doubt about that. Aubameyang has clearly got the role sort of just off Lacazette, but in a wide starting position, or he's told when we lose the ball, he goes wide and covers. It's the same with Ozil. He's got a fairly free role in behind those two. So I wouldn't read too much into the idea that just because we're not 4-4-2 on some app doesn't mean that we're not actually playing with 2 forwards. So yeah, good for Ober, and like you say, that first half alone, he looked a bit more back to his confident best.
Yeah, another player who people were very keen to see start games before this has come on in games at half time. I think nearly enough every game so far. Torreira. Everyone very happy with his impact so far. Ellis, what did you make of him first half? He had a great effort from a free kick actually, which I think he tricked everyone in the ground at that point. I thought he was putting it in the box, but went around the wall. But in general, how did you feel Torreira did in the first half tonight? I thought he was excellent and very direct in his play.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. He picked up the ball. He was on, especially the sort of first half for me. He was on the ball a lot of the time. He was always picking the ball off the centre backs, creating things, being very positive with his passing, trying to get forward, trying those sort of cross field balls that we're so used to seeing Xhaka do. And it's nice to know that Torreira's got that in his locker as well. He picked Lichtsteiner out a couple of times on the overlap when they were pushing forward. And like you say, that the free kick he tried, that surprised me as well. I won't admit to know much about him until we signed him. I heard good positive things about him when I watched him a bit in Uruguay. I was quite impressed with his performances for his team then in the World Cup. But yeah, I wasn't expecting him to take that on, and he took it on. If he had a bit more bend on it, I think he would have put it in, because the keeper was certainly beat. And when it hit the side net, and he was only just starting his dive really, so if he had a bit more bend on there, he probably would have had a goal for himself. But yeah, he was all about the place everywhere. Some of the commentary I was watching on BT, let's not get too involved in their commentary because we all know the standards that BT have there, but they were sort of saying he's picking up the ball too deep, and I was like, hang on, he's one of the deeper midfielders. That's sort of his job to be there. Like, you've got Mkhitaryan out there, you've got Iwobi, and you've got Welbeck, who was sort of like the more forward wingers / forward / attacking mids, wherever they were sort of playing. It was quite fluid. They're the guys you want up there, creating chances there. Torreira, you want sort of picking the ball up, making the passes and getting it forward quickly for them guys to sort of try and attack and break down the defence that the team had put out against us. But yeah, I was very impressive. There's even a point when he sort of made a tackle with his head, which is always goes down as a lot of commitment in my good books.
I was going to bring that up.
People get a lot of praise for that. Sometimes I think, hang on a bit, are you really doing that well if you have to tackle with your head? But everyone loves it, I think. I can remember one game, John Terry for England went for it, like literally could probably gone with his foot, but just slid along the floor of his head. And they're just funny moments like that, where you do like a player when they tackle with the head. But he looks good, and you can see why people are calling for him to start, because he's just got that tenacity, that energy. Today, especially in the first half before he came off in the second half, he had so much energy. He was everywhere, always picking up the ball. And obviously he's had a bit landed funny and had a slight niggle injury there, so I was a bit worried. But he came back on for the second half and managed to play a few more minutes before he was subbed off eventually for Guendouzi. But yeah, very impressive with his performance today.
Yeah, Kris, I just want to ask you about Torreira as well. Obviously, you watch Serie A and French League and all the other ones and stuff, so you'd seen a bit more of him than maybe some others. So you kind of knew what he was about before he came in. What have you made of him tonight's game, and then just the season so far in general?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of. I think we're seeing a lot of the player that we want to see. You know, he is tenacious. He is that classic South American sort of, you know, bulldog kind of spirit. He runs around a lot, but it's not without purpose. You know, he puts himself about, but he's clever with the football. And something that I certainly noticed on Sunday, probably because it was a high level opposition, if you can call Newcastle that. But he does always look for a forward pass, and he is always looking to get us on the front foot. I've seen a few people sort of dig Guendouzi out for not doing that. I think that's a little bit harsh, because if you think that there's a lot of development in Guendouzi to become sort of, you know, that side of his game will come, but people forget Torreira is only a young lad as well. You know, he's still making his way. I think it was only, was it two, three, maybe, I think it's 3 seasons ago, he's getting Pescara out of Serie B into Serie A. 2 seasons ago. Yeah, there you go then. And his career path has almost followed the Marco Verratti line, in that he's sort of come through a lesser club and then found his way to a big club and is impressed from the off. He's a very good player, and I do think that we'll see him starting more games. I think this is just Emre's way of adjusting it and putting him in slowly. And my only concern with him, along the lines of tackling with the head, and that is he's so fearless, that he does look like the sort of player that we saw him land really heavily on that ankle. I wonder if he's the sort of player that will get a few knocks throughout the season and maybe miss a few games with injury, because he just puts himself about so much. So I would like to see him maybe. It's a problem we have with Jack Wilshere, where he'd hold onto the ball too long. I think with Torreira, it's not so much holding onto the ball; it's going after the ball so much. So yeah, I think he's a player that will be key throughout the season. But I'm not too concerned that he's not starting games too much yet, because his time will come. And especially when the nights get like they are at the moment, it gets a bit wet and windy and a bit miserable. I think his game will really come to the floor, and we've got to dig out some results away from home.
Yeah, I mean, just from his time at Samp, from what I remember, I don't think he ever really struggled with any injuries. That's off the top of my head, so I could be wrong, but I'm just hoping he's got that typical Uruguayan thing where they just like seem to have the crap kicked out of them all game and just get on with it. It's just like Cavani does it as well, doesn't he, Kris? From PSG, you can get lumps kicked out of him all game, and he seems to just get up and carry on. Yeah. And Suarez did it. I'm sure everyone remembers him when he was at Liverpool. So yeah, I think it's just a South American thing. We'll jump into the second half because there are a lot of goals to go through. Second goal, Danny Welbeck. Ellis, I'll come to you for this one. Welbeck hadn't had the best game up until this point, but good movement and a nice ball in from Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, it was a bit. Danny Welbeck does frustrate me. For me, he's got all the attributes physically to be a good striker, but his technical ability is something that can be a bit left to desire at times. His movement can be okay, but his actual touch on the ball is a bit bad, and his finishing isn't great either. But he was in the right place at the right time. Like you said, a bit of good movement there. Mkhitaryan sort of come in, put a decent ball in. I think we needed a ball like that, because even though we'd still got the first goal, they were still trying to defend and put a lot of men behind the box. And sometimes it's just the sort of typical passing that we get used to, of that horseshoe pass and just passing it around the box. And sometimes you just got to go for it, put a ball in the box, you never know. And there was two players between Danny Welbeck, the two defenders, that I think they probably should have done a bit better, but they both seemed to lose him. And in the end, he was left with a free head, and he put it away quite clinically, really, for him. But I'd expect most people to score in that situation. And to be fair, Danny Welbeck's probably missed goals like that in previous attempts, but I don't want to criticise him too much. I think for me, he's third down the pecking order in terms of he's definitely not going to be picked if we're going to play a forward over Aubameyang or Lacazette. Maybe like we were saying, the games in the Capital One, Carabao One Cup, or other games in the Europa League, when it doesn't really matter, he might get a game. But then I'd be more inclined to sort of start the likes of Eddie Nketiah and get some more youth in there. But he can be quite useful, as we've seen in previous seasons, on the flanks as well, because he does work hard. I'll give him that. His technical ability might be a bit lackluster, but in terms of his physicality, and he'll always run for people, so he can sort of pick up games here and there for on the right wing or the left wing, or occasionally up front if we're sort of short of choices up there. But he's a squad player for me. He's not someone that's going to start. I don't think his performance today would suggest to Emery that he needs to start more games. I just think he's going to be a guy that when you need him, when we're playing a team or an opposition that's not quite as highly ranked as the team was today, then he's going to get some minutes. And as long as he sort of takes shine to score some goals, that's all I care about. As long as he sort of, when he puts the shirt on, he plays well and he tries his best, you can't really ask more for a player. Like, he can't play out of his ability. Some players we can be critical because we know they can do better, but I think sort of with Danny Welbeck was sort of at the peak of his ability, really.
Yeah, I mean, this one thing you can never criticise Welbeck for is his work rate and his effort. I think Steve sent us a message about it must have been in the second half where Welbeck won the ball like 4 times in a row, because every time you won it, you gave it to another Arsenal player and they gave the ball away. He had to go back and win it again. He just kept doing it over and over again. Before we're going to talk about individual performances at the end of the game, we're just going to go through the goals here. Kris, coming on to Aubameyang's goal. The little pass into him, nice from Mkhitaryan, but that was attempted pass gone wrong, wasn't it? That wasn't like a really clever, I'm going to pretend to miscontrol it so the defender is out of position. And then I'm not taking away from the finish, because the finish was fantastic, but there was a little bit of a miscontrol in that build-up, wasn't there?
Yeah, 100%. And I think in a weird way, that's what gave him the space to find the net. And the goalkeeper again was poor, but I think he was almost positioning himself for the 1-2 as the ball went past him. Like you say, good finish. It's a game of very fine margins. You've got to be able to react quickly and take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. See Dennis Bergkamp away at Newcastle. But yeah, I mean, I think he's sort of player that is one of those that if a ball falls to him on the edge of the box or inside the box, 99 times out of 100 he will finish. And like you say, that the build-up was good, although it was a misplaced pass, and Aubameyang took advantage of that. Mkhitaryan's movement was good. He had a weird old night, Mkhitaryan, because he did some things that I thought were really, really good. And some of his movement was excellent, and he's got such good feet. I haven't seen a player with such good feet for a long time, but equally, sometimes he drifted out of the game, so he's a bit of a weird one. But yeah, I think, like you say, certainly not planned, but take nothing away from the finish. That was clinical, and I do love a shot that it just starts to dip as it hits the back of the net. That's always the best placements, rather than the ones that keep rising, because they could end up going anywhere. They look better, but they're not always as clinical. So yeah, good finish that.
Yeah, it was a really nice goal. Ellis, I jumped straight onto the our last goal anyway, not the last one of their game, sadly. Mesut Ozil, but I wanted to highlight more the build-up in the play, not the Lichtsteiner sort of lofted ball in the box. A certain Greek bloke who apparently is really slow, according to there's a geezer in Wales. You really don't like him. But he did a little cheeky, I don't know if it was like outside of the boot or something, into Lichtsteiner, little pass in there. That Mkhitaryan would have been proud of that little ball in.
Of all the post-match shows for Socrates to do that, he does it the one time. Oh, mate, Jason Davies isn't here, but you know what his reaction would be. I'm not going to try and do a Welsh accent. It'd be, oh well, they're goat herders or whatever. It doesn't count. Doesn't matter. We're free to up. He'd reel off a list of excuses to try. And
they're fucking nobodies.
Exactly.
Fucking no one.
There you go. Good. I like that one. It's like it's here. Christ, I better start behaving myself. But yeah, that was a really good ball from Socrates. I didn't think he really had it in his locker. I must admit, I haven't been on any of the radio shows with Jace after the game since we've bought him, and I've listened to him and I've heard him sort of slag him off whenever he gets a chance. But for me, he does it right. I wouldn't say I was joyous when we signed him. I was a bit underwhelmed when I found out we'd signed him. It seemed like a sort of Sven Mislintat was just basically signing all ex-Dortmund players because he didn't really think of anyone else to sign into our price bracket. But again, I won't admit that I watch a lot of Dortmund. Out of all the German teams in the league, I probably watch them more than anyone, but that's not a great deal by any stretch. And they didn't have a great season, but for me, he's 30. Is he 30? He's been around the game a lot.
30, 31, I think, something like that.
Yeah, he's in his 30s at least. So he's been around the game a lot. His experience, and the same sort of thing goes with Lichtsteiner. There's a bit more experience into that back four or whatever we're going to decide to play. But at the moment, it's a back four, and I think that helps. And he's not afraid to put a tackle in. Again, he's going to say it. There's just a bunch of goat herders, but he put a lot of decent last-ditch tackles in that, for someone who was apparently quite slow, you probably struggle at doing. But yeah, he's not afraid to put his foot in. He's tried that great ball that's gone out to Lichtsteiner, who's then done a really high lofted ball, which has sort of found its way to Mesut Ozil, and which I don't know if you saw the technique that he used, but he seemed to sort of hit it with the underside of his boot off his studs into the ground and then bounce in again. He's got this sort of knack, hasn't he, of doing those sort of weird goals, like sometimes side foot into the ground first, or when you just expect him to go across the goal, he'll just like side foot pass it to where you expect it.
It was just weird because the moment the ball went up in the air, I thought, oh, okay, Welbeck or someone will like challenge for it. And as it's coming down, I'm like, that's Mesut Ozil. Why is no one on their team trying to head the ball? And it just felt, and he probably just saw it come down and thought, oh, well, I'll just tap this in then, because just none of them challenged for the ball.
Watch the replay. You can actually see the moment in his eyes when he realises that Welbeck's not winning that, and he knows there's no one near him. He's like, oh, all right. Just a bit of shock that he's got on the end of the ball. But again, a good finish. The game was pretty much over then, but the technique from Socrates to get in and the technique from Mesut Ozil was quite a nice goal to watch and a nice, pleasant surprise. It's always good to go 4-0 up. It's just a shame we still haven't managed to keep a fucking clean sheet this year. I mean, the game was won. To let one in's a bit annoying. To let two in's very annoying. But you can't criticise it too much. But it'd just be nice if I was a defender in an Arsenal team. If I was Bernd Leno, I've not done anything really all game. I've let 2 goals in. I'd be pissed off. And I'm sure the defenders are pissed off as well, because that was probably our best opportunity this season to finally get a clean sheet. And it doesn't bode well if we can't really keep a clean sheet against the opposition we play today.
I'm making a packet on both teams to score in Arsenal games. It's brilliant. Guarantee it every game. It's just so obvious.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, after watching the first half, I mean, I don't mind a gamble, but wow, even I wouldn't have backed that mob to score. Which is saying something because I'm never confident of our defence. Speaking of those conceded goals, Kris, do you want to talk about? I'm going to have to look this geezer's name up. I've written it down here. Chesnikov.
Dave.
Dave Chesnikov.
Dave Chesnikov.
The Vorskla captain. Stefan Lichtsteiner didn't have his finest moment in that, did he? Really?
No. Just on names, actually, I do like the fact they had a guy called Alexander Skylar. Now, if that isn't a Bond villain, I don't know what is.
I thought their manager looked like, you know, those Jason Statham films, the ones that are straight to DVD.
Yeah.
And the villain in it is some sort of Eastern European character.
I
know this is horrendously racist, so I apologise to anyone from that area of the world. But I looked at him, that's a Jason Statham villain. But yeah,
he looked like the extra from that new horrible film that Dave Bautista's in with Pierce Brosnan at West Ham, didn't it? Yeah. Yes, but I think Lichtsteiner is as a. I mean, you know, from his time at Juventus, he's a winner. I think he won the title every year. He was at Juve. He's a born winner. He brings experience. I think he's been brought into the club as much for that backup and that training ground winning mentality as anything else. I'll be honest. I've been sort of I wouldn't say banging the drum, just been lightly tapping it about maybe giving him a few more league games because I do think against certain teams, ironically probably Everton at the weekend is another game that he probably would do all right in. It's nothing against Bellerin. I just like to see Hector get a bit of a break from time to time. But no, you're right. It wasn't his finest moment. It happens. The one thing about sport at the elite level, and Dom would probably tell you this as well, when you play at elite level, if you are an elite club, which, you know, whatever you want to think Arsenal are, and Spurs aren't, you essentially, your level comes down to the opposition you're playing at times, and you can't help but switch off sometimes and take games for granted. Whatever level of football you play, even if you play on a park on a Sunday morning, if you're 4, 5, 6, 7-0 up, you do take your foot off the gas. It's just one of those sort of situations, and it seemed to me like he misread the flight, you know, and it was one of those where I think we were quite slow to come out from the corner anyway. When the corner was clear, we were quite slow to come out. It happens. I think, yes, it will be one of those that Emery will probably knock a few heads at training tomorrow and say, look, this has to improve, because against a better side, you will be punished, a lot more than once, or in this case, twice tonight. But as I say, I think against a better side, we're probably clearing that corner with a lot more intensity and we're out. So, yeah, I'm not too concerned, but a player like Lichtsteiner he'll probably be in the dressing room now, still beating the shit out of himself over that. He's that sort of player. So yeah, no worries, but credit where due as well. Hell of a finish. He caught that sweep, didn't he? So yeah, good luck to him, and their fans. They had a lovely time, didn't they?
Yeah, they enjoyed that, and unfortunately, they got to enjoy another one. Sharpar scored the second Vorskla goal. I'm not going to go into it too much because basically we just not given up, but we were just like, it's 4-1. It's the 93rd minute. Nobody bothered tracking. He just got in open space, and again, it was a really, really good hit. The only I feel really sorry for Leno, to be perfectly honest, because he'd done nothing wrong up until that point, and Socrates and Holding as well, who hadn't had a lot to do in the game, but when they were called upon, I thought they were fine. So they at least deserved the clean sheet. As for the game itself, 4-2 doesn't really tell the story. I thought we were easily comfortable, and once we got the first goal, we're basically in full control, and that to come out there and open up the space for us. I just want to go into some individual performances. For me, I thought man of the match tonight was Alex Iwobi. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. A mutual friend of ours said it's not surprising he's good tonight. This is his level. Kris will know what I'm talking about. Little joke we had between us, a few of us, but I understand. Yeah, I understand what he's saying. But as we always say, you can only play what's in front of you. I was glad that he was taking on his man and doing really well. Ellis, you said yourself earlier that you're not Iwobi's biggest fan or that confident. But I thought tonight he was superb and probably created more chances than any other player.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I am not his biggest fan. I can be quite critical of Iwobi, but today I thought, along with sort of Mkhitaryan, when he got on the ball, he looked quite dangerous. Not necessarily in scoring, but in definitely creating something. His footwork was quite well. He seemed to sort of do a lot of step overs and confuse their defenders, create a bit of space from him. At times, his final ball was left a bit wanting, but obviously for the assist for Aubameyang, it was perfect on the money. And a lot of times, he just managed to create himself a bit of space, make a bit more space for his teammates. And like you said, it is a lesser opposition, but you can only play what's in front of you. And I thought he played well. And I think games like this will give players confidence. It doesn't matter who you play. If you're banging in goals, getting assists, getting the feel for the ball, running past players, your confidence will start to build. And the more your confidence builds up, the more you're likely to try that in the games against tougher opposition. If that starts to come off, then your confidence will just build and build and build. You get a few assists, maybe a goal here or there, and that'll get him well on his bike. He's a player that I think positionally, our shape can be left wanting a lot, especially on like the game before last when we had Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ozil and Ramsey on the pitch. A friend who I play FIFA with put a message of sort of people's positions on the pitch, and all our forwards seemed to gravitate towards the left, and there was fuck all people on the right other than Bellerin. And I think maybe Iwobi is one of those players, and Mkhitaryan, who can probably stretch it a bit more, probably a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more suited to those wider roles. I know Mkhitaryan's probably more of a natural attacking midfielder, but he has played a lot on the right for Dortmund and for one he's playing for Man United, and he's been put out there again today and before for us. So I think that can help. And again, with Iwobi, I think if you want just pure attack and raw potential, then you're going to want Aubameyang and Lacazette on the pitch. But if you want a bit more balance, when Iwobi's not breathing out of his ass by the 70th minute, he's going to give you that. He's going to give you that sort of trickiness and pace on the wing. And he's still going to drift in, don't get me wrong, but I think he'll be a bit more disciplined than, say, someone like Aubameyang or Ozil, who just seems to sort of drift wherever he wants to go if he's playing out on the wing. So for me, I'm glad Iwobi played well. I think he probably was the man of the match. And I just hope he can build on this, really.
Yeah. Before I come to you, Kris, I'm going to do a terrible, terrible Welsh impression. Although my surname is Welsh, I'm not actually from Wales. But, what's occurring? 54 likes? 210 of you in here? Where's my likes? Give me my likes. There you go. That's my terrible Welsh accent. Anyway.
That was terrible.
It could have been worse.
Jason is going to
you don't want to hear mine.
Jason's going to murder me now. Kris, just quickly your thoughts on Iwobi, because you're quite the pro Alex Iwobi club compared to a lot of ABW people. What I really enjoyed most from him tonight was how direct he was, and that he was actually willing to run at people and take them on, which is something we don't see many of our players do, and I think we're really lacking at times.
Yeah, but I thought he was bollocks.
Kris is much better than me. Just get into it.
I am a fan of Iwobi. I think the trouble Iwobi's got to a degree is that he was. I was going to say fingered. That's a terrible expression to use, especially with you on. He was pointed at essentially as one of the people to get on the back of last year, and I think at the moment he's still in that sort of camp of trying to get back into the hearts of the fans, if you will, when that's not really his job. His job is just there to play football. I know some people give him some shit because of his off the pitch stuff, the whole nightclub thing, and footballer goes to nightclub, oh god. And I think obviously he does a lot of Snapchat and all that stuff. I don't really care about that. That's fine. It's not my cup of tea. But if that's what he wants to do, then do it. The only thing I wanted to see is him performing on the pitch. And like you said tonight, he looked like a player who was given a chance and wanted to make a point of that chance and perform. And that's what you want. We've got a squad of whatever it is, 30 odd players. We've got some youngsters to back up the first team and reserves. He is a player that is going to need game time. I know some people were quite keen on him going on loan. Games like tonight is exactly the reason I didn't want that to happen, because he will give you something. And he knows now that he's seen how Mesut Ozil's been treated. He's seen how Mkhitaryan's been treated. He's not at their level yet. And I think, was it 2 games ago, he didn't even make the bench. You know,
Yeah, it's
he's
two games in a row. Wasn't even in the squad, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, the last thing you want to do is become that Europa League player. You know what I mean by that is you know that the only games you're going to get are in the Europa League. You know, he wants to be at the very least on that bench and fighting for that space. He does give us something that I don't think anybody else in our squad does. And yeah, I know he does have his detractors, and sometimes his final ball is lacking. And I know that he hasn't always got it in the tank to do a full 90, but when he's out there, he does have something different about him. And like you said, the really good thing about tonight was the player that broke through against Everton, I think it was, with that goal last season or 2 seasons ago. That sort of player was back tonight, and he looks leaner and he looks more agile, and he was taking players on, like you said, and committing players. So yeah, that's all you can ask for. And I quite like his personality. He does seem like quite a bubbly character, and he seems to be quite popular in the dressing room. And we haven't given him a contract for nothing, so hopefully he kicks on and he can build on this performance, because we need it consistently, not just for the odd game against some goat herders.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed, and I was really pleased with him tonight. And he got a really nice, warm reception as well from the crowd, which. You know, there's been a few stories and articles and interviews with different players, and you know, some of them have said some quite upsetting things, to be honest, about what sort of treatment they get from some people in the crowd. It is only a very small percentage, but it's, you know, not nice if you are a footballer, and especially it's your own fans saying it. So it's nice to see that. Another guy I wanted to point out was only on for a little while. My new favourite player, Emil Death Row Records, came on. Moved about a lot, and we saw a little flash, didn't we, Ellis? A little bit where he did the old drop the shoulder, put a guy on the floor, just made the guy just fall over, like invisible sniper just downed him, and then the pass wasn't quite there in the end. But a couple of times when he got on the ball, he looked quite promising, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked good. Like I've not really heard much about him until pre-season when he scored that goal against PSG, and then I've sort of just been keeping an eye out for him when I can, if he just does play in games like these or even gets on the bench. And he managed to get on the bench today, so I was looking forward to seeing if he could come and make an impact. And like you say, he wasn't on the pitch too long. He didn't really have enough time to sort of make his mark on it. But like you say, that piece of magic where he dropped the shoulder, lost the two defenders, and the ball was a bit too heavy to Welbeck. But that's just sort of youthful exuberance, really, isn't it? He's probably just sort of buzzing that he's just done that at the Emirates. Granted, not a packed Emirates on a Thursday night against some team that he's never heard of, but he still managed to do that in front of fans. He's been at the club since he was 10. Is that 10? Or has he been there 10 years?
10 or might be even younger, might be 9. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's always nice, isn't it, to have sort of a player that's been in your club for a long time, since he was a young player, to sort of start breaking in to the team. The only sort of person we've had like that is obviously Jack Wilshere. Wobie's been at the club for a long time, and before that you've got people like Chupa Akpom, but he never really made his mark, and he'll probably be off, or hopefully he'll be off at some point. But yeah, it was good to see from him, and just to have that bit of magic will probably do him the world of good. Like you said, we've got the Carabao Cup coming up, so I reckon he'll get a lot more minutes then. And yeah, it's just good to see. It's nice to have someone you're not too worried about how they perform. You just want to see them express themselves and get on the pitch and get some minutes. And I think he did that well today, and I think he'll get more chances throughout the season, especially, like you say, in the Carabao Cup, depending on how far we get from that, depending on sort of what teams Emery puts up. A lot of this is sort of new territory for us. We were used to the Arsene Wenger teams being put out, seeing the youth in those sort of games. Emery might be a different kettle of fish. He might sort of spread it around a bit, have a few players from the first team who are not getting as much minutes, with a mixture of some of the youths that we just need to get there and see what they do. And yeah, I think he'll get minutes, especially again in the Europa League against some of the minnows we're playing at the moment. So yeah, I was really impressed with him, and I hope to see more of him this season.
Yeah, it's always one thing you can guarantee at Arsenal, despite how small the crowd was tonight, which isn't a huge surprise because I'll be honest, I'd never heard of Vorskla before tonight. Kris claims he has. Rick, he's like, no, Kris actually had, only because he played him in fucking Football Manager or something.
True.
But yeah, I hadn't heard of him, and you see that sort of team, and you're on your ticket, and you're like, you can get a ticket, and you're like, Thursday night, late night travel, tube, everything else. You're not going to be that keen. But they gave him a really good reception, and we always are very appreciative of all of our own I expect him. Maybe he'll get a start, and maybe Eddie as well in the Carabao Cup. Is that next week? Isn't it against Brentford?
Is it really bad that whenever I hear his name, I'm pretty sure you both seen Eddie Murphy Raw, have you?
Yeah.
When he's talking about the girl with the bone through her nose, and every time I hear Eddie Nketiah's
Remember,
name,
we're trying to keep it clean this season, Chris. Remember?
I know this is a clean one, but it's just when he does that thing when he goes, Eddie, what have you done for me lately, Eddie? That's all I could just see Eddie Nketiah's face when I just see Eddie. That's all I can think of. I just like to throw that in there. But yes, don't watch that DVD if you're remotely offended by everything, because it's very offensive.
It's very, very offensive.
It's
as well.
Brilliant, but my God, yeah.
Me and Chris are old. Ellis is the young one.
Very,
I've
very
never
old.
seen that film or have any idea what that.
So you need to, but just watch it away from the kids. Trust me.
Eddie Murphy's stand-up was Raw was the right name for it. Anyway, that's sort of all the players and stuff I wanted to talk about tonight. We're going to do some questions from the chat. Oh God. Just if anyone chat box, for anyone who's not watching live, first of all, you're missing out on the return of Kris and Ellis back on the show. You're missing out on Chris's hair as well, which has got a lot of comments in the chat box tonight. I'm not going to say anything about his hair. I'm not going to say what he's done with it tonight. But if you want to see it, you've got to come and watch the YouTube video. You can't just listen to it on iTunes or anything else. You've got to come see. But if you do just listen on iTunes, we still appreciate that very much as well. Can
I defend my hair at this point? Am I allowed?
Yeah, but you're not allowed to say what you've done with it, because it will ruin the surprise. We're trying to take people in.
Let's just say I've been home today. It's miserable outside. In fact, I haven't even been outside today. I've been day off today. I've been working from home doing printing. I had a bit of a lay-in. I had a late in the day shower, and I really couldn't be bothered. That's why it looks the way it does tonight. This is not a fashion statement, I promise you.
Well, Thunder Road said I had the worst hair on the panel, so we're no longer friends.
I mean, he is right, to be fair.
He described them as something that he'd find down in his nether regions.
That's harsh.
Although, it is harsh, isn't it?
My hair is terrible, but this has gone off the rails already.
Welcome to ABW Hairdressers.
well, Nicky Wilson said that you'd gone full Colin Firth, which I could sort of see that. It's like Colin Firth crossed with the bloke from EastEnders.
I've been ill, leave me alone. And I've had 12-hour shifts.
There you go, listeners. If you aren't watching the YouTube show, you're listening live chat, you're missing out on all these great.
This conversation will be completely meaningless to you.
Oh dear! Right, let's move on quickly because Jason is going to kill me. We've already got a couple of questions from the chat box, but if you've got any more, please do fire away. I'm just going to check the Twitter very quickly.
Can I jump in with an Arsenal-related topic just while you find some stuff? Socrates, this is genuinely not a Jason wind-up. Genuinely, I'm being completely honest here. I think he's getting better and better every week that I've seen him, or every game he's played. He seems to be growing in stats that little bit more. I think the whole, is he fast? Is he not? I do think it's a bit of a red herring. He's clearly not fast. What he is quite quick across the ground, and for a big guy, you look at him and you think he couldn't run for toffee. But I do think he does actually have quite a decent turn of pace, and he reads danger really well. There was one moment in that first half, again, opposition not clever, but there was, I think, the one guy they had that had a bit of pace. He pulled away on that left hand side, and Socrates just dropped the throttle and off he went. And the thing that he does really well, which I've been watching since he's come, because he uses his size to his advantage. If you look at someone like Mustafi, he's quite a strong built upper body player. He gets knocked off the ball so much. Socrates doesn't do that. He's all shoulders and chest. He uses what he's got to his advantage, and he tends to push players away from goal, and that's something that we haven't had. I would probably go back as far as Sol Campbell, who was a very physical 43, maybe 44, maybe 45-year-old. He doesn't really know what age he is now. But he was a very physical defender. Martin Keown was another one. Although Keown's probably a good example because Keown was quick across the ground for a big guy as well. But he just uses his body well. And I'm not sitting here saying he's the new, he's the new Varane or Umtiti. He's not. He is what he is. He's a defender that we got on a decent budget or a decent amount of money. But he is experienced. He certainly hasn't been the car crash that many people predicted that he would be. And I think when I watch the two of them together, Mustafi's the one I worry about more. And I think Socrates will get the best out of Mustafi. my question is, how much is best of Mustafi? I'm not sure, but no, I do think he's a quality centre back, and I wouldn't want Mavropanos learning from anybody else. And I'm actually quite intrigued to see if Laurent Koscielny could get back to the level, and we don't know. It could take him a lot of months, but signs are so far he's stepping up his training. It sounds like he might be back for Christmas. I quite like to see how those two complement each other, because they're both decent, decent in terms of speed across the ground, and they both got attributes that I think would dovetail quite well. So it'd be interesting to see if we had genuine competition at centre back, and of course Mavropanos to come through. Who better to teach him than a fellow Greek? So yeah, I just think credit where due. I think he's been really good the last few weeks, and I think we should probably give him that credit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I was kind of like Jason. I was a bit on the fence about him coming in and wasn't overly keen on it. But every game he's played, he's got better and better. And yeah, Mustafi, I don't know. Sometimes some of the decisions he makes really confuses me. But anyway, less said about that, the better, because we're being positive tonight, because we got another win and 4 in a row, and I've completely lost the plot on what I was doing, and also forgot what that felt like because of last season. Right, one from Joshua Page. Ellis, you can have this. Will we see Torreira start in the weekend against Everton? Yeah, Everton.
He came off quite early in the second half, so I'm hoping that is more with the opinion to start him, give him a bit more rest, because obviously he started this game, and not because of that little niggle or injury that he picked up. I don't know if anyone can say in the chat box if anyone's mentioned if anyone's got any injuries after this game, but from what I've seen so far, I haven't seen anything mentioned about it. So hopefully I think he will start. I think people, certainly fans, a lot of us have been crying out for him to start, and I think this game will sort of help Emery make that decision. As good as Guendouzi has been, I think Torreira just offers a bit more. He's a bit more dynamic. There's a bit more aggression to his play, and I think his attributes could really complement Xhaka well as well. So I'd like to see both of them start, and I think they probably will, like Xhaka and Torreira as sort of the base of that midfield on Saturday.
Yeah. Is it Saturday? Sunday. Yeah, that's when the game
Sunday.
is.
Sorry.
Got to advertise the radio for the right day, Ellis. Jesus.
Souls.
This is why he hasn't been on all season. One for you, Kris. No, he's been working hard. Not Kris, Ellis. Peter Coulson asks.
Please don't read out that one from Highbury Lurker, because that's disturbed me quite considerably.
Yeah, no, we definitely, sorry, Highbury Lurker. We acknowledge you, but we're not reading that out. Peter Coulson asks, how inevitable is it that Theo will score against us on Sunday, or am I just being too much of a paranoid Pedro?
Well, I mean, as we've established, Arsenal don't do clean sheets, so somebody's got to score. Richarlison is probably more of the danger, but that only goes to show that he's probably bang on, that it'll probably be Walcott that will get in the way of a shot from Richarlison and put it in off his arse or something. The other one that I kind of fear a little bit, this is weirdly, is Cech Tosun, because he's the sort of player that he's bang out of form, and we all know what happens when players who are bang out of form come to the Emirates. They always seem to get a goal. But no, I mean, fair play to Theo. Yeah, I know people say he took a lot more money than he was worth, and it never worked out. And blah blah blah. He seems to be having a good time at Everton. I wish him well. Obviously not on Sunday. I don't think you're being a paranoid Pedro, because he does offer things that will pose as a danger. The only thing I would say is that if any defence should know how to deal with Theo Walcott, it should be ours. And if anyone knows how to make sure he goes missing in a game, surely it should be ours. But yeah, we'll just have to see. But I'll put my reputation on the line here and say, no matter what happens, we will concede at least one on Sunday.
I think that's definite. There's not many things that are written, and that's definitely going to happen. But
I'll get the odds on it while we're talking. But it's
I do think that the space our fullbacks leave, not necessarily their fault, it's the way we're playing, but it's something to exploit. Look, I know I did a Welsh accent earlier, allegedly. And maybe you didn't understand what I was saying, but basically I was trying to pretend to be Jason and saying there was over 200 of you watching, and I've only got, I don't know, whatever it was at the time, 40 likes. We've only got 66. What's going on? Look, I'm just going to do it in my proper Essex accent. I'll go a little bit, chavvy and whatever, but you got to give me some lights. You know what I'm saying? Blood and all that stuff. Anyway, quickly moving on again.
Blood, for fuck's
You're
sake.
just so old.
I am so old. Like, I don't know what kids say now.
Nor do I.
I read it on Twitter and you just assume it's correct. Archie asks, thoughts on Lichtsteiner? I like him. He's never under pressure. But I think Bellerin edges it for me on the final third. I'll take that very quickly. We kind of already talked about Lichtsteiner and how he did tonight. I thought he was very comfortable. I not necessarily agree that he edges it in the final third. I think they offered two different things. Lichtsteiner has probably got a better delivery, but Bellerin has got that pace to get in behind and then, get to the byline and pull the ball back. Might not be as accurate, but I think he just offers a little bit more. But I think it's like Kris already said, you can definitely switch them up. SD Gunner asks Ellis, how well does Iwobi have to play to put Lacazette on the bench and Aubameyang up top? Oof.
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think he's probably got to play like he did today, but against Premier League opposition and more than once, so consistently. Is he going to get that chance? Probably not. I think we'll see the return of Lacazette to the starting 11 on Sunday because he didn't feature at all today. I think his position out of all the forwards is probably the safest at the moment. He's looked the best with his hold-up play and link-up play for the team, and he's taken his chance as well. Again, he's only scored one goal, as Aubameyang hasn't now, but until today, we only had one player who scored one goal this season. But for me, he's looked better, so I think his place is pretty assured. I could see a situation where Iwobi may start with Lacazette and Aubameyang maybe benched. I couldn't see a situation where Iwobi's playing well enough to bench Lacazette and then move Aubameyang up front by himself because he has looked quite isolated. And the only way he's really going to get sort of chances consistently is with quick counter-attacking football where he can run in behind because that's what he's best at. And playing the run we've got now of games isn't the highest opposition. So I think a lot of those teams are going to try and play similar to how they did today, sit back and frustrate us. And I don't think that will suit Aubameyang's game.
Yep. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. I've got Twitter up on my other screen and someone's just retweeted a John Cross story and all it says is Tottenham players are traumatised and I can't read the rest of it. I just presume it means for wearing the shirt. Anyway.
Did you see Pochettino go full David Brent the other day?
Oh dear.
Oh,
yeah. It's very nice. It was very, very nice being an Arsenal and Inter Milan fan this week.
Oh, wasn't it just?
It was great fun. Quick
update, by the way. If you wanted to have a flutter and gamble responsibly, kids, both teams to score on Sunday. If you put down £10, you get £16 back. So I think that shows how little faith they have in Arsenal keeping a clean sheet. If you wanted to go over 2.5 goals and both teams to score, you get £9 and 9 pence back profit. So I think it's fair to say the bookies probably agree with us that we ain't keeping no clean sheets.
Yeah. We'll try to get through these questions a little bit quicker now. So no carpentering in it, Mr. Carpenter. That goes for you as well, Ellis. Bradley Tucker. There are rumours that Bailey might go to Arsenal in January. Would you like to see Bailey at Arsenal? Chris, I'll ask you this. There was also another question linked in with this. Srinath, I think that's how you say your name. I'm so sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Thoughts on the Ozil Bailey swap rumours? Wow. Just your thoughts on Bailey in general first, Chris. Would you have him at Arsenal?
I'd rather have David Bailey than in our back four than Eric Bailey. No, he's one of your classic modern day. Oh, he's strong and African and quick, therefore he's good. No, what's not good enough to get on the Man United side, I don't think we should be signing. And yes, I know people are immediately going to say, "What about Mkhitaryan?" Well, we got Mkhitaryan because Alexis was on the move and forcing a move through. We got the best of what we could from that deal. I don't think we should be signing our rivals' reserve players. As I say, yes, he's physical, yes, he's quick, but he's got so many mistakes in him. So no, I would rather see us get through this season with the defenders we've got, and then try in the summer for a big name centre back if the opportunity arises. So no.
Yep. We've got a couple of questions from Twitter as well. Just take them quickly. Matt L. Roberts, that's at Matt LR28.
I think you said Metal Roberts. That would have been brilliant.
Would like to know what the panel think about fans turning up for Europa League matches. What is it that drives the fans away? I think, like we said earlier, Thursday night, a lot of the fans don't live in London. Not all of the fans, so a lot of fans will travel from all over the country. We've got Arsenal fans, not just from inside the UK, you get fans from all over the world. And getting back and traveling, leaving anywhere to outside of London at 10 o'clock at night can be a pain. Lots of people have got work the next day, can't afford it. It's getting towards Christmas now. I know it seems like a long way away, but all those things add up. And also just the opposition. If it was Bayern Munich or Barcelona or whatever, then yeah, it's going to be a sellout. It's different then. But against a team that frankly no one's ever heard of, you're not going to get many people turn up. I'd imagine it'll be more for the sporting game as well. And
let's be honest, as much as we would all celebrate if we lift the trophy, we don't want to be in this competition, really, do we? I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but we all would rather have that awful song and all the glitz and glamour of the Champions League. That's what we are essentially in this competition for, to try and get out of it into another competition. So I don't blame the fans. And the good thing, let's turn a negative into a positive. If it means that more kids, first time fans can get in, great, all for it. So I don't think we always have to look at it as a negative. And let's be honest, if we'd have had 75,000 there tonight, we'd have probably had 40,000 more moans on Twitter about how we didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do the other. So if just have a night off and just enjoy it from home.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a full stadium, but some games you can't, and just Thursday nights are just difficult, and it's just not as appealing match to go to. Another one from Twitter, Will O'Brien. He's got two questions. Imagine if we had a right winger in this game. I know a young lad at Fiorentina I'd love us to pick up. He's talking about Chiesa. I do like Chiesa, but I'd rather have Politano, although that means you have to leave Inter Milan, so that'd be annoying. He also said, win means less when we concede twice against that level of opposition. All due respect to Vorskla. But I'm so disappointed with the discipline and effort defensively tonight. What do you guys think? We kind of already talked about that. We had a few other questions about that as well in the chat. People happy with it, but disappointed defensively. Ellis, do you just put it down to you're 4-0 up and players kind of switch off?
Yeah, a lot of it is what Kris mentioned earlier. Professional footballers have a way of dropping themselves down to the level of their opposition. The fact that you're 4-0 up, we managed to go 4-0 up without really getting out of sort of third or fourth gear. It was just a case of we're just going through the motions, and we managed to get goals. And especially the last one, I think their first one was sort of a freak of nature accident from Lichtsteiner and a really good finish. The fourth one, we just switched off. Like, the game was pretty much won. As soon as the ball went in the back of the net, the referee blew up for the end of the game. And I think it's down to that. It is frustrating, don't get it wrong. I completely agree with what Will O'Brien said. It is really frustrating to concede 2 goals against that level of opposition, especially one at 4-0. You think, right, we might actually get our first clean sheet of the season. It doesn't happen. But in the long and short of it, it doesn't really affect our season or our campaign at all. It's just 2 late goals in a game where we're 4-0 up and we switched off.
Yep. And the next 2 games, away at Karabag and then away at Sporting, arguably they are the only 2 what you'd call quote unquote tough games before we should have the group wrapped up. So if you think about it, tonight was, performance aside, yeah, of course you'd love to go out there and win 10-0, but the performance aside, you just wanted to make sure you got 3 points in the bag. Sporting have won tonight as well, so it's kind of status quo. You'd expect us to beat Karabag, and I think Sporting go away to Vorskla, whatever they're called. Yes, they do. So that's not a gimme. If we can get maximum 9 out of 9 for the first 3 games, including 2 away games, we're pretty much through. So it sounds a bit, what's the word? A bit arrogant again, but the group stage, it's just all about getting out of the group. Nothing, it doesn't matter about performances. How many of the teams, the bigger teams in the Europa League tonight, have actually put on performances that are worth writing home about? There wasn't many. So
realistic as well, those 2 goals aren't going to have an effect on any of the players' mentality there. They're not going to sit there and go, oh, I can't believe we conceded 2 goals. None of them give a shit, basically. They've won the game.
Yeah,
there's no howlers there from the defenders to sort of get worked up about if there's 2 goals.
They'll be annoyed. They'll be annoyed about it and just go, "Oh, we shouldn't have done that." And if anything, it will try and it'll make them try harder to keep a clean sheet in the next game.
Yeah.
Last couple of questions and then we'll wrap it up. Archie, thoughts on Raul Sanlehi? I don't know how you say that name.
Sanlehi.
Taking over from Ivan. I'm quite happy. Think he can deliver on the field regarding players. And I suppose we can link in with that. Kris, you can have this. Pete Colson. Rumours say we are after Ava Banega from Sevilla. And Pavon from Boca Juniors. That one's slightly more exciting. All the talk is that Sanyehi has already been discussing with Boca Juniors a fee for that. So, do you care about Ivan going?
No, I had a very good chat with our very own Lord Hillwood yesterday about this. I very briefly, I think there's a lot of people in the Arsenal community, whether it be on or off of Twitter, that have an awful lot to say about things they don't really understand. And yes, Ivan Gazidis has got a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a yes man, and he's a very good politician. He says the right things, and he talks the right way. But people forget he has actually done some very good things at the club as well. And he's overseen this transition period, which is arguably going to be the hardest period in our recent history. And something else that people have forgotten is apparently we've negotiated this new kit deal. Well, that didn't get done on its own. So, if that deal goes through and if the new regime works out, we might look back in 10 years and go, actually, Gazidis leaving at this point was exactly what the club needed, because we've now got, I think that Raul was doing this at Barcelona, wasn't he? And had a very good reputation for the job. So, no, I won't miss him per se, but I'm not going to sit here and slag him off, because, I think there was an awful lot of work that did go on, that a lot of the so-called financial experts that are creeping out on Twitter now probably know little or very, very little about, or if not nothing. So, off you go, Ivan. That's fine. All the best. But I personally don't have any issue. I think the owner is more of a concern to me than a chief executive.
Yeah.
And that's for the two players, by the way. Pavon excites me. And actually, I was one of the people that said I would quite liked Banega, but that was before we got Torreira. I'm not sure whether the two would fit. Maybe if El Nene was to move on, maybe that would be a good replacement. But the only thing I would say is, if we are looking at business for January now, that's a good sign, because we haven't done that for a long time, have we? So.
Yep. Yeah, a bit of forward thinking. Personally, for Ivan, for you personally, go ahead, do fine and whatever. But I hope you crash and burn, because you're at Milan.
Fair point. Yeah, good point.
Last proper question, then we got one silly one. One from Thunder Road for you, Ellis. Would you start Welbeck at right wing against Everton for some width and someone to track back and help Bellerin? And I think that's a good point, considering that it'll be Richarlison and Walcott and whatever swapping sides down there.
I refuse to answer any question that Thunder Road has asked me, because he referred to me as the worst panelist with the worst hair. So screw you, Thunder Road. But in answer to the question, I wouldn't really do that. It's a good point, to be honest. I think I can't remember who asked the question about how they're worrying about Theo Walcott getting in behind our fullbacks, but it's definitely going to be a concern for me. Like I mentioned earlier, if they go with the starting 11 that they did in the previous Premier League game, all those players seem to drift out to the left and leave poor old Hector Bellerin a bit isolated, and they'll definitely be able to get in behind us. So it is a concern. It's something to definitely consider. Whether Emery will actually do it is another thing entirely.
Yeah, fair enough. We got a silly question from the road. At Bergkamp Wonderland, Metallica 1 or Fade to Black? Fade to Black every time.
Agreed.
I'm going to do a couple more stupid questions, because I've only got 76 likes. Oh dear. Daniel Block, welcome. First time here. And quick reminder to all our regulars, I'm sure you already know this, but we say it every time. If you are here and you're enjoying the show, please do hit the like button. It really helps us out. Do hit the subscribe button, and make sure when you do, you hit the bell icon, because then it will notify you every single time we go live. If you just hit subscribe, you won't be notified and our videos won't come up, because YouTube are useless, and for some reason they changed their algorithm. Unique 79, if you had to choose chocolate with biscuit, oh my god, my chat's moving too quick. In what would you choose? E.g. Twix fingers, Maltesers, Kit Kat, Vittys, chocolate biscuits.
Kit Kat, Malteser, surely.
I'm a classic McVitie's chocolate
Twix,
biscuit.
mate. It's always Twix. Twix
Oh,
lush.
It depends on the mood, doesn't it? Sometimes you just fancy. Like the other day, I had a real craving for Rolos. I haven't had those since 1983, but I thought, well,
yeah, that's true. Nice. Yeah. You know, I haven't had for ages. A Whisper. You don't get Whispers anymore. You don't see them about, do you? And Yorkies.
No, and Yorkies.
You still get Yorkies. I remember when they used to be like no girls allowed, or
They're
whatever
not for
their
girls.
slogan was, not
Yeah.
for girls. That soon died out, didn't it? Christ, can you imagine the rigmarole on Twitter of a chocolate bar saying not for girls?
See, I apologise to anyone who's not watching live, but we're getting more interaction in the chat box now. We're talking about biscuits. This is terrible.
True. and John and I are old enough to remember when Snickers was marathon.
Oh yeah.
And Starburst was Opal Fruits.
I remember Opal Fruits. It's not that long ago.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Anyway, on that bombshell, we will end tonight's show. Thank you to everyone in the chat box tonight. You've been brilliant as always. Thank you for all your questions you've asked. Big thank you to Stefan as well. Thanks for everyone in the chat box for shouting out Stefan. And we also had a couple of new listeners tonight as well. Apologies, I haven't got your names to hand, but had a few new people in the chat box. So thank you for coming and joining, watching the show live. As always, thank you to the chat box for making them feel welcome. Thank you to everyone who's watching later on YouTube or listening through iTunes or SoundCloud or whatever it is. As I said before, please do hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon, do that stuff. If you can give us an iTunes review, that'd be really helpful. As always, we don't do this for money or anything else. None of us get paid other than Dom, because if we didn't pay Dom, he just wouldn't turn up. He's too good for us, to be honest. But yeah, that's it. This week's pod is out. It's me and Steve and Danny, just the three of us. Steve tells a lovely story about Patrick Vieira and a certain part of his anatomy, which is funny and something he used to do. So go and check that out. I'm not sure who's on next week's podcast. We will be back Sunday for the Everton game, straight after the game, 5-10 minutes after. Live as always. The link will be tweeted out. If you're already subscribed and you've got the bell icon, you'll be notified. It's going to be me, Dom, and I don't know who else. Maybe Jason is back, because I've insulted the Welsh people so much tonight. But yeah, another win. 4 wins on the bounce. First win in the Europa League of the season. Got to see some of the young boys as well. And hopefully we can get win number 5 straight away at Everton. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Kris, for coming on. Lovely to have you back.
It's a pleasure, John. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone who is watching live and everyone listening later will want to see more of you this season. And the same goes for you as well, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Yeah, even though your hair is curly and rubbish. But there you go. We've only got one thumbs down tonight, and we all know it's Cole because Ellis is on the show.
You're going to get another one now.
So thank you all for watching. We've been ABW Live, and we will be with you straight after Everton on Sunday. Bye-bye.